What's up, everyone? I'm going to do my recap on my trade today, but before then, I quickly wanted to jump in and reply to these two comments I got on my last video. I won't lie, this title of I blew up was a little bit not true. I ended up on Friday break even, but the morning I definitely felt like I did blow up. I was down 1200 at one point, so yeah, not great trade. And I just wanted to reply to these. I did reply to them in the comments, but wanted to sort of like make my or share my opinion on them. So this first comment by Timer Goof: in the future, reduce size by half each consecutive loss. This where the loss is contained when you get multiple losses in a row. Now, I don't hate this as as an idea, and I think that for a new trader, it probably would be a very good idea to, go into the day with a set amount of risk and say, okay, I'm going to risk $200 today or $100 today, whatever it would be. And maybe your first trade, you've got $25 risk on, a second trade, $25. But if you've taken two in a row, go, I'm going to pull back and I'm going to reduce my size down so I'm risking $12 on trade or whatever it may be. And the reason I think it's good for a new trader, someone who doesn't have an edge, is it gives you as much time and exposure to the market as possible, which is what you really need to gain at the start. So I don't hate it as a concept. However, for me, trading on on an account with Apex, my risk per account is like 160 bucks. I pay $140 for the lifetime activation fee, and the evals cost I think like $18. So I'm risking less than $160 on those accounts. So the risk isn't really relevant. So I don't really need to worry about containing the losses. For me, trading prop firm money is an opportunity to trade way bigger size than I would do on my own accounts. So that's it's a bigger reason than that. The second thing is the issue with taking this approach is that if you have a strategy that has an edge and you decide to cut down your size when you take on a loss, you are essentially guaranteeing that on the legitimate trades that lose, you take a full loss, but then you reduce size on the next legitimate trade where you still have an edge, right? You still have, I think I worked out that on average I make around about 0.4 to 0.5 times my um, average risk per trade. If I cut my size down on a completely legitimate setup, then I'm giving up EV, which is a poker term for it called expected value. So by doing so, you're essentially going to guarantee that you're not going to be able to make up the loss from previous trades because you've cut the size down. So there is a lot to be said for changing size. If, for example, I have a situation and I go, I think there's an edge here, but it's not as big, but I still want to take the trade. At the moment, I'm taking those on just my eval account. In the future, I will cut my size down on those. It might be a case of, hey, I've got 10 accounts, I'm only going to trade 5 of them on this particular setup because I don't think the edge is as big. Whereas if I've got a situation where the edge is really big, you might want to go, I'm actually going to increase my size on this particular trade. So I don't think you should ever change your size once you have a legitimate edge like I do. I don't think you should change your size based on your loss or your wins. You should change it based on the size of the edge. So, yeah, I see where you're coming from with this. I took a few losses in a row. The thing is, those losses were due to me trading poorly. They weren't due to my edge being not so good. And because I have a fairly defined edge, when I then got those later setups that were completely legitimate, taking less size would have been a horrible knee-jerk reaction to that. It's also, I think, important to understand when you take multiple losses in a row, if they weren't part of your strategy, to understand why. And cutting size down can be a bit of a band-aid over a severed artery, and you need to go and figure out what the problem was. Doing something like this, it can help, but in the long term, it normally doesn't. So, like I said, for certain people, if you're trading your own account, you're trading your own money, and you're fairly new, 100% do this. If you're trading a prop firm money, you've got a clear, defined, back-tested edge in the market. Doing so doesn't really make so much sense. And then this comment here, this was honestly a horrible trading day for retail traders. There's some level of technical analysis you could do, but being quad watching day, it was borderline gambling. I'm sure there's someone out there who got lucky and caught the big volume leaps, but I think that's definitely a small minority. So my response to this is Friday actually provided my strategy. well, my edge with probably the largest potential to make profit. When I looked back, I mean, I was down 1200 and ended up break even despite missing a trade right at the end for 600 bucks, despite taking a trade within that period where when I was making it back, where I actually gave back 400 when I probably shouldn't have done. So there was definitely really good opportunity on Friday. Yes, it was quad witching, and the first 45 minutes to an hour, the market was really difficult to trade. But whenever I've backtested my edge, I don't really consider whether it was quad witching day, what kind of news there was. If there's clearly news at 10 a.m., if we get a massive spike, I'm obviously not going to consider trades in that area. But for the most part, most of my trades happen way after news anyway. So I did go into it wary that it might be a tougher day. But being brutally honest, the this thing here, there's some level of TA you could do, borderline gambling. I don't think that's true at all. There was plenty of opportunity. I traded badly. That's what it came down to. I traded badly all week, and Friday was the first time that I really got burnt for some bad trades. Fortunately, I was able to make that back, I suppose. But I think when you begin looking too much into like what's happening on the day, I I think you can very quickly run into every day seems scary. We are gambling. That's what it is. Maybe the edge was smaller. There it was certainly tougher price action to trade, but as I proved in the second half of the day when I traded accurately, there was a lot of potential. So I'm aware that whenever I'm going to put up a video saying I blew up, I'm going to get a lot of people jumping on telling me how I should have done something differently or whatever, and I'm all for that. But these these particular things I don't think were all that relevant. That being said, please do drop comments down below. I would love to build some sort of community here, and thanks to both of you for um, sharing your thoughts. So now on to today. Today was probably the worst type of price action for my particular edge. First of all, the daily chart, we can see we've taken out the highs of the year a few days ago around the FOMC announcement, and we've since been pushing higher. And this for me is normally when I struggle with my edge, because I really like it when we get situations, if I just moved out of the way, where we either come down into a support area and hold and then push higher, or vice versa, of course, where we run into an area of resistance and then head lower. Like this is a sort of price action that I would prefer to see if I was to zoom out. And when we get these bigger moves higher, the only way that I'm really going to be able to get involved in a trade is if I have a situation where we come into a high, maybe we pull back a little bit, we come back, and then we double bottom, and then we get a setup like this. This is the only real price action. We might get something where like, we might chop around a little bit at the start like this, and then finally get going, and then pull back to the original high of day and get a setup like this. But I'm limited to these sort of trades because reversals don't show up as often. Might get some reversals later on in the day. I thought we were going to get one if we have a day where like price action has done this all day long. Then yes, at the end of the day, quite often you do get this sort of like rounding out effect, and then you might get something like this. But these sort of days, I'm limited on what what the potential is, and you can see that from this. I mean, none of those patterns really played out today. We have got some topping off here, but it's a little bit too late for me to take any trades. So I'll go through the trades I did take, and then some of the opportunities that were close. We pushed off the open and put in a high at 16,870, put in a double top, and then we rejected it. And I really like this price action, this sort of like false breakout. I really loved it. And we ended up setting a pretty nice consolidation period, holding below the 50 EMA. Again, we put in this attempt to push higher that got slammed down immediately. So we had everything that I like to see. Sorry, everything I like to see in a trade. It was a little bit early, which I don't love, but this is a legitimate setup. I'm using levels from today. So I jumped in short. I was wary that we were just hovering above 16,850, which was going to be natural support. We had this level here as well, this initial low, and I really wanted to see it just get in, flush straight down below that for a quick move into the 40s. I got in, and initially we did bounce, and I still liked the trade. I was going to put it down as a good trade regardless. I think I waited for a good entry. It didn't get up to my stop, and then it did sell off, and I took half the position out for around about 7.5 points at 16.845.25. I moved the stop to just above the candle that broke down. I got a little bit of slippage on the way out, but nothing crazy. So I ended up on that trade making around about $100. So nothing crazy, but a very good trade. Next trade I took was based off of the same idea, and this one I will say was a tiny bit unfortunate. I think, I've been really keen to take these types of trades when they present themselves and not be sort of freaked out that I've already taken some profit and I don't, and that I shouldn't take the next one, because I've had many scenarios over the last few weeks where I've opted to not take the 7-second setup, and it's worked really, really well. So I was very much looking for this. I don't hate my entry, but I think it could have been maybe a little bit better. Really, I should have been getting in maybe on the break of 51, but again, I wanted to wait for that break of 50 in case there was some natural support. But I could have got in a tiny bit earlier. We did get this immediate sell-off down here, which gave me around about 5 points of profit. I was in at 16.84950, so I was up around about 5 points, but this happened very quickly. My first target was down, in the very low 40s. Unfortunately, we bounced straight back up, and I stopped out for a full loss. So they were the only trades I took all day, because the other times we got situations that set up for me, and I'll show you them real quick. I just didn't quite get an entry pattern. So putting a really nice triple top at the high here, and I was looking for this to just flag back to the 50 EMA, holds, in that area, and then get short for this move. Unfortunately, we didn't quite bounce enough. This happens sometimes where it just doesn't pull back enough. You could say, well, we've got the pattern, why not just get in? The problem I have with that is all of a sudden I'm going to be taking every single consolidation even when it hasn't pulled back enough. For me, I use the 50 EMA, and I like to see a tag, or at least within a tick or two, because there needs to be a cutoff at some point, right? And if you don't have a cutoff, then you're just going to be taking more and more and more trades, and I think that devalues some of the edge. So unfortunately didn't get a fill there. I would have loved this to have popped a little bit higher and to have got short around about the 81 area, risking maybe as little as 8 points, and it did give a pretty nice move down, so a bit unfortunate with that. And then the other trade opportunity that I was looking for but never materialized was once it sold off and put this low, I really liked that it was holding the pre-market highs. We also had this area of support here that we, to be honest, kind of held and had this sideways false breakdown. So I really like the potential for this to move higher, obviously also being aware that we were potentially going to make new highs on the year again here. We got over the 50, and again, we just didn't pull back enough. I really want to see this one pull back to the 50 EMA for an entry and to catch its move, but unfortunately we didn't. So, yep, not a particularly exciting day for me. There was opportunities for people to take trades. Of course there were pullbacks, there were opportunities to just get in. I find these days the toughest days to trade. In the past, I would have been forcing trades. Right now, the beauty of having the strategy that I do is that during this, where I don't think I have any edge whatsoever, I didn't get a single setup. So therefore, I wasn't really looking to take a trade. And that, I think, is a skill that is really, really valuable. And although there was arguably a long setup in here, because we held the same level of support and we flagged back, by this point in the day, trying to take a long in the last half hour of the market isn't particularly clever. It would have worked out for a small win. I'd just be holding the position, but it's not where I believe their edge is. So that was today. Just to show you the accounts real quick. My live account was down $270 and my eval account down 275. It's one of those, it's a tough day to take because obviously last week I had the opportunity to make quite a bit of profit and I squandered that opportunity pretty much every single day. So a little bit frustrating that the day that I do execute very accurately, I don't take a load of quote unquote dumb trades that unfortunately we didn't get any situations, but that's just part of it. If I trade this way every single day, then there will be then the edge plays out. So I hope if you traded today, you had a good day. Maybe you had some better opportunities than I did. And yeah, hope you had a good day, and I'll see you again in tomorrow's video.